Hello, I'm Adam and I'm here to talk to you today about fascism. Now, I've made a couple of other videos about fascism, but this video I wanted to make specifically about fascism in the United States and how the fascism could in fact come to the United States very easily. And a lot of people are in disbelief about this, or else they would get angry that fascism could come to the United States. They don't believe it. They may have bought into the lies that they've been taught, or they may just have a caricature view of fascism in their mind. So I wanted to cover fascism again and talk specifically about how it could perhaps come to the United States, especially in the coming years with very severe economic hardship on the way. So what I did is I just created a simple chart, Fascism in America. And I wanted to go over again what fascism is versus what people perceive it to be. Fascism has three basic elements. Socialism. You can only come to fascism from socialist democracy or communism. Those are the roads to fascism. If you're a socialist democrat, then you cease to believe in democracy in favor of socialism, socialist dictatorship. And if you're a communist, you simply become pragmatic. You're already a socialist dictator, but you have a very ideological view of what that socialist dictatorship should be. And you become pragmatic, and therefore you cease to become communist with its percepts, and you accept the pragmatism of fascism and the fascist version of socialist dictatorship. So socialism, anti-democratic. This is what breaks down when you talk about a socialist democracy becoming fascism. It's democracy that the people lose faith in. And in fact, that's what's happened before in the past many times. The Weimar socialist democracy of pre-Nazi Germany was a perfect example. That socialist democracy started breaking down. It started going bankrupt. The factions in Congress stopped things from being passable and any workable coalitions because there was no money to pay off the factions. So people started demanding a dictatorship, and that's exactly what they got. Hitler, by the way, did not bring the dictatorship. Rule by decree was brought by the Social Democrats even before Hitler got elected. Of course, he was a fascist, but a Nazi fascist, not a generic fascist. And there's a little bit of difference. Nazism is a version of fascism, but fascism can be more generic than that. And of course, pragmatism. Fascism is very pragmatic, which is why people never see it coming. They think they're demanding simply bold leadership, and often that is the path to fascism. So the misconceptions, angry foreigners and funny hats. When people think of fascism, they think of these goose-stepping formations in military uniforms and angry foreigners in funny hats, ranting and raving in black and white films, and they go, that's ridiculous. I'm an American. I would never support such a ridiculous spectacle. But that's not how it would come to the United States, because the funny hats and uniforms and swastikas have nothing to do with fascism. What it actually is a political ideology or a political movement. That was particular to the interwar years of Germany. Uniforms, again, maybe not uniforms, probably not in America. Americans would reject that image. Bad or unlikable personalities. People see Hitler and they go, oh my God, what a horrible personality. We're so angry and things like that. But it's nothing to do with personalities. Fascists can have wonderful personalities. They can be very charismatic. They usually are. But they can be charismatic in a way that would appeal to Americans. They don't have to be bad personalities. That has nothing to do with fascism. Fascism is an ideology. It has nothing to do with people's good or bad personalities. Anger and hatred. Well, there's a lot of anger usually when a socialist democracy starts to go bankrupt and the factions, the gravy train is starting to come to an end. But it doesn't have to be very blatant. People can smile and just say they want strong leadership and achieve a fascist dictatorship like that as well. That it's capitalist. You cannot get to fascism from capitalism. You just can't get there from here. It has to come from socialism. Capitalism rejects fascism and everything about fascism and vice versa. Fascism rejects capitalism. That's a misconception. You think, oh, especially in America, the political left calls conservative fascist, but that has nothing to do with fascism. It's ridiculous. If you read the fascists, you'll see that they have nothing to do with capitalism. They despise it to its core. They're all about government control. So if you've been taught that conservatism is sort of like fascism, it's ridiculous. And you need to go back and read the fascists. Read Rocco, Gentili, Mussolini. Read what the German Nazis were saying. Read the 25 points. And you'll see very clearly that these people were very committed socialists. Skinheads. This is an image of fascists. It won't be skinheads that will bring fascism to the United States. I don't know that much about skinheads, but they will not be these misfits bringing fascism. These will be people who appeal to Americans. They'll be very American, and they'll appeal to middle-class Americans or Americans across the socioeconomic spectrum. And they'll be likable personalities, and they'll look just like you and me. And they'll be very presentable, and you'll never see fascism coming, which is why I'm making this video. If you, for instance, you go, I would never be a fascist. No way, never. Well, when socialist democracies go bankrupt, and they all eventually do, then people get angry because the gravy train is being shut off, and the factions get more and more angry and radical, and the factional warlords will turn their people out into the street, who can be the most angry, which wheel can be the squeakiest, and coalitions in Congress will become more and more unworkable because everyone digs in their heels. This is what happens in Weimar Germany. This is what will happen to the United States as we go bankrupt in the coming years. So people will demand social justice. Hitler believed in social justice. He didn't use the term that I know of, but all fascists put forth the notion that there's some kind of justice that's not being done, and if I can get power, I'm gonna force through social justice. I'm gonna sweep away the schemers and corrupt people, or the gridlock in Congress, and bring forth this era of wonderful justice for America, social justice. So when you hear calls for this, realize that should set off red flags that fascism isn't too far away. Bold leadership. This is one you'll hear a lot. Bold leadership. We need bold leadership. We need someone to take charge and forget the Congress. They're do nothing, and they're sitting on their hands, and it's unworkable. Get things done. We need someone to get things done. Let's get a strong leader to get things done. Work around Congress. President Obama, of course, uses this himself, and he does it through executive order, the Supreme Court, the UN. A lot of ways to get around Congress, especially when one branch of Congress can simply disrupt the Congress, keep Congress from acting as one voice, and let the president run roughshod, which is happening now with Harry Reid stopping any bills from going to Barack Obama. So work around Congress. Another red flag for fascism. Action, not talk. Talk, it's time for talk is done. This is an emergency. This is time for action. We need to move forward. Again, red flag for fascism. And Mussolini said this himself. I'll read you some quotes. Work together. It's time to work together. We got to stop bickering. We need one movement to move America forward. Unity. We need unity, a common purpose, someone to direct the nation in a common purpose, to do what needs to be done. Well, if it needs to be done, then we better do it, right? By definition, it needs to be done. Someone has to do it if it needs to be done. We need someone to do what needs to be done. And stop the corrupt schemers in Congress, the people, the petty interests, who are disrupting and blocking the good people that we admire from enacting social justice and bold leadership and doing what needs to be done. There'll be a long list of schemers you'll hear put forth, and just in recent history you've heard the Koch brothers, and you've heard the drug companies, the insurance companies, the banks, speculators. These are all the schemers that must be dealt with, slayed by the wonderful hero to come forth. So again, and these are things you're seeing being said already, and the calls for this will grow very very loud in the coming years as our socialist democracy goes bankrupt. This is what happened in the interwar years. Even in the United States during the Great Depression, FDR said, "I assume unhesitatingly the leadership of the great army of our people." I didn't know the American people were an army. "In the event that Congress shall fail to shall fail, I shall ask Congress for the one remaining instrument to meet the crisis, broad executive power to wage war against the emergency. Executive power. As great a power as would be given to me if we are in fact invaded by a foreign foe. This is a very fascist statement by FDR in his first inaugural. Although the political left will spin this as bold leadership. Again, should be a warning sign. And the British Labour Party, same thing back in the interwar years. It is common ground that the present parliamentary machine is quite unsuited to pass rapidly a great body of complicated legislation. A socialist in government Britain would, quote, take vast powers and legislate under them by ordinance and decree, and suspend the classist formula of normal opposition. Again, socialist democracy. And then you can even go over to the fascists themselves. Mussolini said, fascism denies that numbers, by mere fact of being numbers, can direct human society. Regimes can be called democratic, which, from time to time, give the people the illusion of being sovereign. Whereas the real and effective sovereignty exists in other and very often secret, irresponsible forces, the schemers, and you need Mussolini to sweep away the schemers and do what needs to be done. This is how fascism comes, and fascism will look very appealing. It will be very popular and seem appealing to most Americans when it comes, because they have no idea what it is. They are focused on the misconceptions and the character that they know of. To fascists, democracy itself is a sham, controlled by petty persons with petty purposes. This is what the Italian fascist Rocco writes. The great mass of civil citizens is not suitable advocate of social interest, and for that reason fascism insists that the gun be entrusted to men capable of rising above their petty interests. Great men with the common good of the people at heart. And, it wouldn't be too hard to see that. Someone being portrayed in that way by the press. And it talks about here, too, in the paper I wrote, about how societies would break down, that people's interactions would get more militant, and it would start at the fringes but move into the middle of society as society went bankrupt and hardship started becoming widespread. And this happened in Weimar, Germany. I won't go into it here because it would probably take too much time on this short video. And now fascism, when it comes, you will still see a Congress. It's not that they're going to burn down the Reichstag or the U.S. Capitol or arrest the congressmen. They'll just render them ineffectual. You'll still see elections, but you'll see elections where it's not really a straightforward elections. Now, socialism and pragmatism, but also anti-democratic. Most fascist regimes will still have elections. It's just the process will be controlled. There won't be much dissent allowed. The people who could resist financially will be intimidated, threatened through regulation, the IRS, the Justice Department. This is how fascism will come to America. You silence dissent through intimidation. You're already seeing that now, shutting down talk radio, intimidating people in businesses. You see the Obama administration trying to gather names of people who are opposed to Obamacare. They want the names, and so they can threaten and intimidate them. And you're seeing where a corrupt process where people can vote who aren't eligible to vote, if you can bring a lot of phony voters to the polls, which is why you're seeing that they don't want to have people with IDs voting, because they want a lot of people who shouldn't be voting. And then you can control the congressional districts through the Justice Department, trying to dictate to the states what the district lines are. Or you can even rule through UN decrees or Supreme Court decrees. So it's not that there won't be elections. There will be elections. It's just there won't be any dissent. And the process will be very corrupt. And people will be calling for this, though. It won't be a small conspiracy. There'll be fascism usually comes to power as a mass movement. Again, a charismatic leader, someone with a nice personality, someone who looks good on TV, someone who you would like and probably support. And when they say, I have to sweep out the schemers and do what needs to be done for social justice, bold leadership, most Americans will go along with this. And you'll see fascism, but it won't be the fascism that you imagine in your mind with skinheads angry foreigners in funny hats, and it won't be the people who are most often caricatured by the press and Hollywood as secret and potential fascists. It'll be the people who you never suspect, the people who are celebrated in the news media and who are very popular and charismatic. So again, I wanted to go over fascism because most people don't know what it is. They have no idea when it comes that they're susceptible to it. They don't know how easily it could take hold. So I wanted to cover all of that. I'm going to make more videos, one on each of these three elements, and lay them out so people can understand what fascism is, because it's a very real threat as our socialist democracy goes bankrupt. And so I don't want that to happen. And I think most Americans would not either if they understand what it is. That's the trouble. People don't know what fascism is, so they may never see it coming. So that's why I'm making these videos. So stay tuned. There are more coming, and I appreciate your time very much, and have a great day.